what we're going to do now is go through the entire question for practice test 2, question 6. We're going to go through all 4 parts together. We're going to listen to the lecture. You'll be able to see me take notes so you know what words you should write down. You're going to see how I understand the question and use it to help me keep good notes. Third, we're going to prepare, so you're going to see me use the circles and arrows we learned about. And fourth, you're going to hear me give a response. So you're going to hear how I use the phrases and how I use my marker, your pencil, to guide me through the notes. So, one thing, before you start question number 6, you want to make sure that on your scratch paper, you have every word in green written down. That's going to prepare you to take good notes, and you'll know exactly what to expect on the lecture. Now, let's go ahead and listen to the lecture.
Now, listen to a discussion in a biology class. The professor is discussing animal navigation.
Some animals migrate from one territory to another. During migration, they may travel hundreds or even thousands of miles. Quite amazing. How do they find their way through such vast distances? Well, what we're going to talk about today is just that, forms of animal navigation. We'll discuss 2 methods of navigation animals used to reach their destinations without getting lost. The first method takes advantage of landmarks. Landmarks are huge masses of land that form an unmistakable sight, such as large mountains or deserts. Animals use landmarks to find their way towards their destinations in much the same way we use road signs. For example, whales in the Pacific Ocean migrate south during the winter. They find their way using one of the biggest landmarks around, the North American West Coast. They know that as they travel south, the coast should stay on their left side. So they keep the coast on their left side and they never lose their way. And when it's time to head back up north, they simply make sure to keep the coast on their right side. Another, more complex method of navigation uses the Earth's magnetic field. Though it is undetectable to humans, research shows that some animals find their way through complicated routes by referencing the Earth's magnetic field. A good example of this can be seen in loggerhead sea turtles. These turtles must make their way along an 8,000-mile migration route the first time they ever see it. They do so by using the Earth's magnetic field. Scientists learned this through an experiment in which they introduced a variety of magnetic fields that differed from the Earth's along the path of the turtles. They found that, very quickly, all the turtles began to lose their way and go off course. When these added magnetic fields were removed, and all that was left was the Earth's, these scientists saw that the turtles found their way again without much delay.
Using points and examples from the talk, explain the 2 types of animal navigation presented by the professor.
Okay, we heard the lecture and we heard the question. One thing to keep in mind, I took pretty good notes, but my notes aren't 100% complete. What I wanted you to see is that I didn't try to write down everything the professor said. I just tried to write down key words to help me get the key story for every part of the lecture. Now, when we heard the question, we heard the professor actually repeat animal navigation. So that tells us if we forgot or if we didn't hear what the topic was again. So the question is a big clue. Now, regardless of what the question is, you're always going to just repeat the lecture using our phrases. Now, in your 20 seconds to prepare, you want to make sure to draw circles around the words that belong together so you know exactly what you're going to say and you don't get lost. So how does that work? We have 5 circles for 5 points. Now we know this word belongs to this topic, so we don't get confused. Second, you want to draw the arrows in your 20 seconds. The arrows show your order. Sometimes when we take notes, we don't take notes in such an organized way. So this makes sure that we know exactly how to move and we don't get lost. Now, in your 20 seconds, you draw your circles and your arrows, looking at your notes to remember and understand the details and how you're going to say them. Now, in your 60 seconds to give a response, you want to make sure to use the phrases we taught you and your pencil, my marker, to guide you through the notes so you don't get stuck on any word. So let's go ahead and give you an example response. Listen to my phrases too. In this lecture, the professor discusses animal navigation. He discusses two methods of animal navigation. The first is landmarks, such as mountains. The professor discussed whales to illustrate this. He stated that whales migrating south use the North American west coast as their landmark. As they migrate south, the coast should be on their left side, and as they migrate north, the coast should be on their right side. The professor also discusses a second form of animal navigation, the Earth's magnetic field. He uses loggerhead sea turtles as an example to illustrate this. The professor states that these turtles go down an 8,000-mile route and they use the Earth's magnetic field to guide them. Professors know this because of an experiment where a variety of magnetic fields were introduced and the turtles lost their way, and when this variety was removed, the turtles found their way. Now that's an example of a complete response. You remember our phrases? In this lecture, the professor discusses two types, uses whales to illustrate this. You want to make sure to master that as well. Now, that's an example, and that's what you want to be able to do on your test.